a handful of months ago, I'm sitting at home, minding my business in Las Vegas. My phone rings. Who do you think it is? It's Jason McCarthy. Now, my book had come out. People liked it. The Go community liked it, right? And he goes, hey, I think I want to maybe do a big fitness festival in Florida. It'll be like speakers, there'll be workouts, there'll be obstacle courses. And then he asked me if I not only want to be a part of it, but be heavily involved in this thing, right? Like I'm going to run this speaker series. And I'm not going to lie to you guys. I was hesitant to say yes. And that's because I've seen both Fire Festival documentaries. And I know what can happen. But as Jason continued to talk, it occurred to me that you guys are not normal people. Or you have military backgrounds. You voluntarily do Go-Ruck challenges. So worst case scenario is that you're all sleeping in terrible tents with terrible MREs without enough water. You'd all love it. So this was no fail proposition for me. So I said, yeah, Jason, let's do it. And this idea of a friend calling with a sort of wildfire out proposition, it reminded me of another phone call that I'd received a few years earlier. So a handful of years earlier, I'm sitting at home, and my friend Donnie Vincent called. This is Donnie. Now, I first met Donnie when I was writing a story about him for Men's Health magazine. We went hunting off the grid in Nevada for about 5 nights. And Donnie, for those of you who don't know, he's this amazing backcountry bow hunter and filmmaker. Okay, so he goes into the world's most remote, dangerous areas for months at a time, and he makes these movies that are like Planet Earth, except they have hunting. Okay, so Donnie goes, hey man, I'm going up to the Arctic for more than a month on this extreme backcountry hunt. Do you want to come along? And before I can say no, he starts in on this sales pitch to me. Okay, he goes, it's going to be the most epic adventure a human being could ever go on. Goes, we're going to fly in there on tiny, dangerous planes. We're going to be hundreds of miles from people. We're going to face whiteout storms. We're going to cross ancient mountain ranges and ford glacial rivers. We're going to see grizzly bears and wolverines and wolves, and on, right? And, I don't know if it was that I hadn't had lunch or I'd had too much coffee or what was going on, but I find myself agreeing to this proposal. Okay? So we get off the phone, and I buy gear, and I start training like I am in. So then about a month before we're set to take off on this expedition, Donnie and I meet up. Okay, we're going to get all dialed in, get our gear ready, get all set. And he takes this opportunity to sit me down. He's like, yeah, have a seat. Let's talk, bud. I'm like, okay. And he goes, you realize that this is going to be a lot more extreme and dangerous than the Nevada trip, correct? I go, yeah, I assume so. How much more extreme and dangerous? And he looks at me and he goes, 20 times. And I go, oh, 20 times? I can handle that. I was afraid you were going to say 50 times. And he pauses. And he goes, well, it could be 50. It could be 70. Oh, geez, could be 90. But I was in, right? No turning back now. So at that moment, my comfort zone was this little blue dot, right? In the Arctic, it's going to throw me well out of it. This place is going to just hurl me out of my comfort zone, right? But I obviously survived. And something funny happened when I got home. By getting out of my comfort zone when I got home, I noticed that it had expanded. So when I got home, I was fitter and healthier than I'd ever been, which is great. But I think more importantly, my perspective on life had changed. I was just better across the board. I was less stressed. I was more calm. I had more patience. I was a better husband. I was a better professor. I was a better writer. I was just better. Just better, right? And I wanted to know why. So my job as a journalist is to ask big questions and then chase down the answers wherever it's going to take me. So I started traveling. So I traveled 30,000 miles around the world. I met with people like Buddhist leaders in cliffside shacks in Bhutan. I met with geneticists in Iceland. I met with all kinds of people, researchers at Harvard, all this kind of stuff. And all these people and places that I went to, they all kind of showed me in their own unique way the power of getting out of your comfort zone and the power of taking on challenges that are both big and small. So tonight, I want to talk to you about one concept I learned that I just love, that I've clung on to, and it has helped me think about how I assess risk in my life, what I consider a problem, how I think humans grow, et cetera, et cetera. And I can tell you that it 100% applies to this weekend that we find ourselves in for some of us. And it all starts with a myth, okay? So the most famous myth in ancient Japan, it's called the Masogi myth. Now it centers on this character whose name is Izanagi. Now Izanagi is a god in the Shinto faith. His wife is a goddess in the Shinto faith. They have a bunch of little god kids. They have godlike amounts of money. They have godlike amounts of power, right? Like things are great for these two. Until his wife, she dies in childbirth. Very tragic, right? And after she dies, she goes into the underworld, which is where all Shinto gods go after they die. So my man Izanagi, he is wrecked after this. Like he's a mess. And he decides that he cannot live on without his wife. So he is going to enter the caverns of the underworld and descend down and find his wife. Now, spoiler alert, it's a very depressing story because once he actually finds her, he realizes that she's gone. She's become a zombie. There's no turning back. But he also realizes that if he doesn't get out of there as soon as possible, like now, he is also going to succumb to the underworld. He's going to die down there, okay? So what does he do? He makes this fantastic break up for the exit. It's one of the biggest challenges a human has ever taken on. Along the way, there's monsters and demons and zombies. They're all grabbing at him, trying to pull him down, trying to keep him down there for eternity. And he has all these moments along the way, right, where he thinks he's hit his edge. He's like, man, I have hit my edge. I'm going to have to quit. This is it for me. This is where I die. But somehow, he keeps digging deep. He's one foot in front of the other, and he crosses it. Okay? By crossing and recrossing that perceived edge that he has, he bursts out of the caverns. He makes it back alive. Okay? And in doing this experience he has, it shows him that he undersold his potential. And once he realizes that, with that attitude, he takes that back into his normal life. It makes him a better father, makes him a better God, makes him a better leader. So I told you that to ask you this. When is the last time that you were truly challenged? Now a little bit of a history lesson. Quick 200,000 years in a couple seconds here. So over our species, hundreds of thousands of years of evolution, it was essential for our survival to do hard things all the freaking time, right? This could be from a big hunt. This could be from moving to summering to wintering grounds. This could be from a tiger lurking in the bushes. And each time we took on one of these challenges, it would show us what our potential was. We would grow as humans. And to live was to be challenged, like ethically, all the time, right? But in modern life, if you think about it, it's suddenly possible to live on and be fine without ever really being challenged, right? You have a decent job, you have a home to come home to, you have plenty of food, you have plenty of water. It seems like a decent life. But you think of human potential as a big, big circle here, right? Well, a lot of people live in this small space right here. That's because life doesn't throw as many challenges at us as it used to. Okay, so we never really learn what we're capable of. So enter this concept that I learned about in my journey. It's called Masogi. Now, it is a tip of the hat to Izanagi, and it recognizes that growth occurs when we throw ourselves out of our comfort zone. So Masogi is a challenge that you choose to take on for the sake of growth. It is circumnavigating this thing right here in order to grow. There's only 2 rules to Masogi. Rule number 1, make it really hard. Rule number 2, don't die. So rule number one, we define this by saying you should have a true 50-50 shot at finishing whatever challenge you decide to take on. True 50-50 shot. Because nowadays, oftentimes when we take on challenges, we choose things that are well within our capabilities. Right? We're like 95% sure we're going to finish this thing. So think about how people approach marathons. They don't say, I don't know if I'm going to finish this marathon. They say, I don't know if I'm going to finish this marathon and insert an arbitrary time goal. Right? Number two, don't die. This is rather straightforward. This is a tongue-in-cheek way of saying, please be safe. Take a cell phone, take water. Tell a significant other where you're going, right? Now, the person that I learned this from, his name is Dr. Marcus Elliott, and he's a Harvard-trained MD who pivoted into sports science, and he totally revolutionized the field. Fascinating dude. And he's done wild, far-out Musogi challenges. Like one year, which is pictured here, him and a few people, they walked an 85-pound boulder 5 miles underneath the Santa Barbara Channel. So one person would dive down, pick up this rock, walk maybe 10 yards, drop it, go up for air. Next person, rinse and repeat, right? We've also done ones like pick a peak that you can see in the distance. We'll just see if we can get there in a day. And he's done these with people ranging from dorky writers such as myself to accountants, all the way up to literally Super Bowl MVPs. Okay? And so the whole idea is that we were mimicking the challenges that we used to face all the time in our past. They're part of our evolutionary DNA. Now, along the way, this tends to do two things for people. So one is that it shows us that we chronically undersell our potential. So in a well-designed Musogi task with that true 50-50 shot, a person, just like Izanagi, they're going to hit that point where they go, this is my edge. I'm done. I got to quit. No more for me. If you can just keep putting one foot in front of the other, you're going to have this second moment where you can then look back and say, well, wait a minute. I thought my edge was back there, but I'm clearly past it, which raises a more important question you then take into your life, which is, where else in my life am I selling myself short? Right? And then the second thing is that it tends to reframe fear for people. So if you think about it, in the past, failure used to mean death. Right? So we evolved to fear all kinds of failure. But today, failure no longer means death. It means that you misspeak while giving a presentation, or you misspell a word in an email to your boss. Yet we still fear that kind of stuff. And so by dancing on this edge of failure, you start to see that failure really isn't a big deal. And you can take that back into your everyday life, and that becomes powerful. It's a powerful realization, because nothing good in life ever comes with 100% assurance of success, right? Ever. Okay, so when I talk about this concept, and I've talked about it to rooms full of doctors and psychiatrists and lawyers. The psychiatrists think I'm crazy. The lawyers say, that's a big legal case waiting to happen. The initial consensus is that it's kooky. It's weird, right? And to be quite honest, when I first heard about it, I thought the exact same thing. And then I did a little bit of digging. So we used to call these rites of passage. When we had a person who was at point A in their life, we needed to get them to point B, where they were more confident, where they were more competent, where they were a better contributor to the tribe. What would we do? We would send them out into nature to do something really freaking hard, right? And along the way, they would struggle. They would literally burn their old self up in the effort and return to the tribe better able to contribute. The Maasai did a lion hunt. The Inuits did a seal hunt. And a lot of different Native American tribes did extended time in the wilderness without many resources. And these are just a few random examples, hundreds that occurred throughout different small societies we evolved. And one thing that I came upon that was really fascinating to me is that when you look at all the research, it is the people who have no challenges in their life who tend to have the worst off mental health. So we tend to think like, oh, challenge, that's going to break a person. No, it's actually the people who have no challenge who have worse off mental health. So, the idea of Misogi is that I am going to reintroduce this metaphorical tiger back into my life, right? And that is going to show me that I am far, 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 far more capable than I ever thought possible. So for me, my time in the Arctic was my Misogi. That was my tiger. Right? And I've continued to do a Misogi every single year since. And I can tell you that for me, it has been powerful. It has taught me things about myself that I've learned immediately, been surprised by, but it's also, I know, given me things that are below the surface that I think will come out when I need them most. And so, my question to you is, what is going to be your Misogi? What are you going to do to burn your old self up in the effort and come back a normal person, better person, right? And some of you might find your Misogi here this weekend. And I really hope that you do.